This is the sickest prison in history. Every inmate is forcibly pried open by a machine, is forced by a machine to open his mouth. A time bomb is injected into the body. Once someone crosses the yellow line on the floor, the pain in the abdomen will be excruciating. Once they cross the red line, the bomb in the abdomen will rapidly grow larger. There are no surprises. The lucky inmates will die instantly. All the prison doors are made of lasers. The slightest touch can cause burns. What's even sicker is the circular monitor that moves around. It not only spies on the inmates' urine and feces, it can even invade their dreams. If they dream of something they like, the bombs in their stomachs will cause severe pain. The neutron cannon that patrols the entire area is even more terrifying. It only takes one shot to turn a person into ashes, even though this prison is heavily guarded. But in the end, a master escaped. In the distant future, the Earth is becoming more and more polluted. The resources we need to survive are becoming scarce. In order to maintain a balanced population, scientists have proposed a plan to reduce the number of human beings. Each family can only have one child. Those who break the rule will go to jail. John had a son. Unfortunately, he lost him at the age of 7. After years of trying to get his wife to have a second child, the two of them covered up when they left the house, trying to get past security with a waistcoat they prepared in advance. But at the critical moment, nervous wife but exposed, John saw a bad opportunity. He got into a tangle with the soldiers and told his wife to run away. John was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Across the barren desert, a wagon load of prisoners arrived at the infamous fortress prison. After entering the prison, the same procedure as the other prisoners, John had a time bomb implanted in his body. This prison is deep. Every floor is overcrowded. Strangely, there's not a single cell door. Newcomer John was curious. He didn't realize what was going on until he was bloodied. It turns out that every entrance is wired with lasers. The slightest touch could result in burns. It wasn't long before the intelligent machine led them to the 3rd floor. They shared a room with another inmate. Unfortunately, they bumped into a bald prison guard, facing all kinds of provocations. John, a newcomer to the city, chose to remain silent. As night fell, John lay down on the floor and fell asleep. Unbeknownst to him, his dreams were already being watched. Seeing John's wife's exquisite figure, the warden was intrigued. He activated the button. John was woken up by the pain, while his fellow inmates laughed mercilessly. Early the next morning, everyone was roused and went to work on the bottom floor of the prison. Suddenly John heard a cry for help and followed the sound. When he found out that his cellmate was being bullied by the bully's henchmen, he immediately took justice and helped his friend. But the other guy was too strong for him. He threw him out. Soon after, the 3 of them were found by the intelligent machine. Then they fell to the ground in pain. Because of the fight, they were locked in the same laser cage. Inside, there's not much room to move. The 3 of them can only remain in a standing position. The slightest movement causes burns. John knew he'd die in there sooner or later, so he chose to take the blame alone. He was then taken to the warden's office. To everyone's surprise, John was not punished. There he saw a video of his wife. Turns out she never got away that day. After watching the video in triumph, the warden commanded the robot to torture John. Seeing him cowering in the corner, the warden smiled in triumph. This torture, coupled with the fear of his wife, John had the idea of escaping. During the mealtime, he asked his fellow inmates who worked beside the warden the exact location of the women's prison. Although Black did not want to burn himself, but under John's repeated questioning, he told him the truth. At that moment, all he wanted to do was to save his wife. On the way back, the jailer's men suddenly attacked from behind. John was caught unawares. Soon, the warden caught a glimpse of the fight between the 2 men. Surprisingly, this time, he didn't try to stop them, but just watched John get beaten up. Luckily, John had been in the special forces. He survived one crisis after another. Soon the 2 were fighting on the overpass. The warden, who couldn't get enough of it, immediately ordered the robot to close the bridge. Seeing that the space between them is getting smaller and smaller, John tried his best to take down one of the jailer's men. He didn't follow the warden's orders to kill him. Instead, he reached out and pulled the jailbird's man onto the bridge. This act earned John the respect of all the inmates. By now, the warden was furious. In order to save face, he activated the neutron cannon. In an instant, the jailbird's men were reduced to ashes. Then the warden activated the time bomb button. The inmates quickly dispersed from the pain. At that moment, John, who was huddled in the corner of the catwalk, accidentally discovered the device that had fallen from the body of one of the jailbird's men. He knew that if he wanted to escape, he had to get the device out of his body before he was put in solitary confinement. John took advantage of the situation to give the device to his cellmate. This time, he was about to receive the harshest punishment of all. His whole body was fastened to a ring device. His head was connected to a number of wires. With his wife in front of him, John had no choice but to say goodbye. As the device was activated, the circle spins faster and faster. The husband was being tortured. The wife could see it all, but there was nothing she could do but grieve. The warden took the opportunity to threaten Anna. To play the game with her, she would let her husband live. There was nothing for it but to obey. After 3 days of torture, John was in a state of delirium. He was like a human puppet. His fellow inmates felt both pity and sadness for John, until 4 months later, the patrol robot suddenly scanned John. In the morning, The inmates witnessed a miracle. John had regained consciousness, although they didn't know what had happened. Black told Anna the good news. She was overjoyed to hear the news of her husband's recovery. She was overjoyed. She was glad that her efforts were not in vain. These days Anna had been searching for a way to restore John's memory. One night, she accidentally discovered the warden's secret. It turns out that the warden is a biochemical man. These people don't need to eat or sleep. They need to be injected with a certain amount of amino acids every month, but they can't reproduce. That's why the warden has a hobby of prying into the privacy of the prisoners. He also wants to find a mate like a normal man. Now he's planning to turn Anna's baby into a cyborg. Anna was horrified to learn the truth. She got the warden drunk with wine. Then she slipped into the control room. Using the artificial intelligence's dream voyeurism technology, Anna saw images from her husband's subconscious. Through her efforts, she was able to save her husband from his predicament. John woke up and hated what his wife had done, and with the help of his fellow inmates, he calmed down. In order to help his wife escape from the warden's clutches, John began to mobilize his fellow inmates to escape. Anna, who had learnt of the escape, was not idle. She took advantage of the warden's absence. She stole the prison structure map. The next day, with the help of Black, John managed to get the lenses. They quickly planned an escape route, but the most important thing now is the device inside the body. Otherwise, we can't hide from the warden. While Black was taking the lenses back, he overheard a conversation between the warden and Anna. He threatened Anna and John with divorce. Otherwise, he would transform the baby into a cyborg. John decided to escape early. On the other hand, his fellow inmate, Glasses Man, through continuous research, finally figured out how to use the device inside the body. All we need now is a magnetic magnet. Everything is ready. The jailbird can't wait to experiment. The eye man opened his stomach. Then he put the magnet on it. The device was instantly attracted to his body. The whole process was not easy, but jailbait was able to endure it. It proved to be worth the pain. Then they made up their minds. One by one, they removed the devices from their bodies. It looked like their plan was going well, but the warden noticed the problem long ago. Intelligent surveillance is everywhere. They've already recorded the handover of the map between Anna and Black, but the warden was fired from the company for failing to do his job. Now he can only move in restricted areas. At this moment, he realized he is just a slave of the company. On the other side, John and the others placed the device on the pipe, and then deliberately created a disturbance in the mine. This illusion tricked the robots on patrol into giving the wrong orders. Soon there was a gaping hole in the pipe. The group began their escape as planned. Seeing that they were about to break out of the prison, the warden immediately opened the steam valve in the pipeline. They realized that the attack was not going to work. They had to go back the way they came. Seeing that their hopes of escape were dashed, the jailer thought of surrendering. But the next moment, he was shot into a hornet's nest. John suddenly had an idea. He took his mates and hid by the hole. He wanted to wait for the rabbit. Soon the guard's robotic arm came in, and he's spraying down the passageway. Just as the muzzle of the gun reversed direction, John grabbed the barrel and pulled it in. Then he grabbed a shovel and started shooting. It didn't take long. The guard's helmet was smashed to pieces. As the blue liquid flowed out, they realized that the guard was also a reformer. At this moment, they didn't have time to think. John directly hit the arm with a shovel. With the cooperation of the three of them, they finally removed the guard's weapon. With his weapon in hand, John fired a volley of bullets in front of him. The warden sends in reinforcements. But by now, John is getting stronger and stronger. He saved his teammates from danger several times before the biochemists arrived. Successfully took his teammates to hide in the lift. On the other hand, Black came to the warden's office. He wanted to escape with Anna, but he was discovered. At this moment, Black is no longer afraid of anything. He wanted to fight with the warden to the death, but he's a modified cyborg. He was no match for him. He was overpowered in no time. Anna tried to break the glass, trying to stab the warden to death. Obviously, it didn't do any good. By the time John and his men got here, Black was gone, and Anna had been scheduled for surgery by the warden. He wants to destroy the baby. An anxious John threatened the warden to release her immediately, but the mainframe decided that the warden had been threatened. Not only rejected the order, it even called the warden a traitor. They activated the neutron cannon and blew him apart, but the hatch could not be opened. The moment of truth. The man with the glasses came up with an idea. He went to the computer. He wrote a virus and implanted it into the mainframe. At that moment, a group of biochemicals came outside. The man with glasses was wounded on the spot. Before he died, he activated the program. The entire prison system was instantly paralyzed. All the cyborgs lost control. John went to the operating theater and rescued his wife. With the help of his fellow inmates, the two of them escaped from the prison in a truck. Anna was about to give birth. They had no choice but to stop the truck. They had to stop the truck and find a cabin to deliver Anna's baby. But just then, the truck suddenly started. So it's smart too. John was in the middle of delivering a baby, and he didn't know what to do. He was about to be crushed to pieces. He grabbed his wife and ducked out of the way. Then he took up his weapon and led the truck to the other side. After a barrage of gunfire, he thought the truck would explode, but it suddenly changed direction. It was heading straight for the cabin. With a loud bang, the cabin was reduced to ashes. After a long time, desperate, John entered the ruins and searched for his wife's body, but he couldn't find his wife's body. Just when he thought she was dead, there was a baby crying in the distance. Followed the sound and searched all the way. He found his wife and child safe and sound. After all the trials and tribulations, the family was finally reunited.